Um, oh, there we go. So we've got Wendy, Riley and Daniel joining us. These guys are either planners or organisers for Easter and Gold Coast. So thanks, guys. But before I hand over, I've just got some stuff to run through quickly from Frederick, Brodie and I. First of all, well done to those that travelled to ACT. That was good. Two very tough days. So I'm sort of looking forward to running and something that's a bit hopefully faster and more open next weekend. For sport class, I just think looking around who's on, maybe Joe. Is that you, Joe Allison? You, Joe? We had we trialled sports class last weekend in ACT, and I think it was actually quite successful. So we had good numbers in all the classes running sport, and I think the idea of making it more accessible to more people worked. So I'm just wondering if anyone that ran sport is on. Do you want to just speak up and just have a quick little word about it? Anyone? Bruce, you ran sport. No one's going to talk to me.
I'll talk to you, Tash. Yeah, I ran sport, but I'm an old bugger. It was great. Loved it. Loved to have something short. It would have been too long for me, but look, I think the key is to get the young folk.
Yeah. Yep.
in.
Yeah.
But it was great for me. It seemed like there were a lot of old buggers bombing around in sport. Got to get more young folk. What are the youngsters doing? Why you guys ran it? Although Angus absolutely smashed me, so he ran it. It was good for him.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think there were a few categories represented, like us oldies, and also there are a few younger ones that were injured or coming back from injury, and then there are a few that are just sort of in a phase where they're not up to full elite training. So I think it's good. So we'll put out a survey and get some more responses hopefully sometime soon, but it looked good. So anyway,
worth doing.
Yeah, good, thank you. Next one is Brenton Gray wants to catch up with everyone at Easter. Everyone that's running the knockout sprint the following weekend. He wants to have a in-person little chat about the knockout procedure. So we haven't set a time yet. It'll just be something like after one of the days of Easter, just a quick little chat with him. So just keep your eyes and ears open for that. There's an Easter social event that Brodie's put somewhere. I think it's Sunday barbecue in a park potentially. So keep your eyes and ears open for that. Brodie's actually not able to make it tonight. So we'll give you some more information on that later. Gold Coast presentation dinner. Ticket sales so far, are going well, but there's a lot of names missing. So hopefully you guys will get onto that this week. It's at it's a bowls club in Southport called the Musgrave Hotel Club, I think, and it's going to be great fun. Hoping to see everyone and everyone all dressed up. So that will be exciting. Other things I've got, just little reminders. As always, I always say in these meetings, just be aware that the drugs, the drug testing people can turn up at any time. So just have that on your radar all the time. Just be careful. Get on to doing those online courses. Other things that are a little bit different for the next 2 weekends that, we might not be so used to. And Daniel will probably remind us, and Wendy will also remind us. It's grass seeds and head torch for the night relay at the Gold Coast. And I suggest those people that are hanging around between Easter and the Gold Coast weekend, perhaps search out our Wildfire Sports sponsor and maybe go and have a visit to the shop and buy yourself a head torch if you don't already have one, like me. And also, just before I throw to these guys, and then to Frederick, if there's anything else I've missed, for those people that are nominated, I think now's about the time that we need to, as a courtesy to the selectors, please have a think about it. And I guess if you've decided that you can no longer travel overseas this year, to contact the selectors or send them an email. And I reckon after day 3 of Easter, that's the time that you sort of probably need to definitely do that. So we'll give you Easter to have a think about it. I mean, you can still leave it in if you're pretty certain, but if you know for sure after Easter that you're not going to go, let the selectors know, because it'll just make the selection process a lot easier. Okay, Frederick, is there anything else you can think of? Frederick's
No, I don't think so. Yeah, that's all good.
Frederick's just come back from Sweden, guys. So he's thanks for joining. He's very jet lagged.
Yeah, sorry about that. Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Frederick? No.
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 I put the link there to the presentation dinner if you want to sort of read more about that. Yeah, and just get in contact with us if there is anything regarding the selection and what else it could be. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Well, so Wendy and Riley, who would like to go first? So chatting about the Easter terrains. Wendy?
And that'll help. How about that?
Yeah, that's better.
Well, what I might do is I'll put up the previous maps that you can see from the website, and with a bit of luck, I can actually find them. Let's see how we go. And can you see that okay?
Not yet.
Not yet. Let's try it again. Might not be having any good luck here. How about that?
No, something's there we go.
Rightio. Okay. So I just thought it might be worthwhile letting you know that the maps that are actually there for Reedy Creek and Boscoville are adjoining maps. So it's quite a large property. The property's been owned. The couple who will come to the presentation at the end of the days are well into their 90s. They're still very active farmers, and their family are heavily invested in this property. So the names, we call Reedy Creek the whole area, and the northern section is referred to as Boscoville, and the southern section you'll discover has a Minmore is the name of the map, but they're basically a north-south adjoining property. And I suppose when you look at the map, if everyone's doing their homework without giving too much away, I guess my best advice is read the bulletin. Read the bulletin and look at the previous maps, and you'll start to see the information that you need to think about what sort of navigation is going to work best for you. I suppose my thoughts are around, you can see that there's white forest, there's yellow clearings, and there's some green areas. And what I've enjoyed at setting the courses is for the long. So I've got the long day, Riley has the middle. And what I've enjoyed is setting variety. There's a variety of rock type and a variety of vegetation, which of course the map doesn't necessarily show, but you'll discover that, especially those on the long courses, men's 21E. You get a really good tour of the countryside. But look, you can see it's not particularly steep, and you can tell by the lengths of the courses set in the bulletin that it's pretty fast. For us as course setters, we have had to make changes over the last 6 months, and the more it's rained, the more the grass has grown, which is a little disappointing in that we've had to shorten them up. But so we were course setting on 4.5 to 5 minute Ks for the guys. And we've just made adjustments over the last few months to accommodate that. So I think in terms of, rather than me sort of explaining a particular leg and how you might navigate from one to the other, for me, the bit about the variety, and really you'll use a variety of orienteering techniques even in an area like this. It will be subtle, the changes. And so in terms of minimising time loss, the quicker you are to adapt and recognise the subtle changes in the terrain and the techniques that you will need, the less time you'll lose. So, plan on it being a fast race. I'm imagining that the winning times will be pretty close together. There's opportunities, I suppose, for mistakes, but I think planning to be really astute in the type of technique that you're using and adapting. So whether it's rough-o across those yellow paddocks are fast and open, then you'll see there's really concentrated areas of granite, and we all know what happens when you run fast into granite with no idea where you are. Okay, so really plan what you're going to do and execute your navigation well. And I guess the other thing I wanted to say really is about you'll hear people talk about the grass. Okay, it's a bit sort of like, to me, as if you're an elite rower and you can only row in conditions where the surface of the water is glassy, otherwise you're going to psych yourself out. Well, then think of it the same way. It'll be what it'll be. I remember listening to Lizzie talk in one of the sessions earlier in the year, and she said many times, heads up, and that's my advice as well for here. Sure, look at your map, but get your head up and look at where you're going, and you will find the way through the thicker bits of grass. If you've just got your head down and you're ploughing ahead and pushing through heavier sections of grass, then I'd suggest you do otherwise. There are plenty of animals out on this. There's been cattle in the property, so cattle tracks, kangaroo tracks. I probably shouldn't say pig tracks, but I've seen them. They're there. But put your forest head on and look at where you're going and use the terrain. Find your flow in the terrain, and you'll do a good job. But hopefully you really enjoy it, and you'll enjoy the 2 days. I might let Riley talk a little bit more about the middle, but like I said, use your whole toolbox of orienteering techniques. Minimize the time wasted by being aware of what you're doing and adapt to those subtle changes, and get your head up and look at where you're going, find your way through the thicker patches. All right, I might hand over to Riley. Hey.
Sweet, thanks, Wendy. I probably don't have a huge amount to add. That was a really good summary, I think, Wendy, of the type of challenges that are on this map. It is a really fun map, though. Like, Wendy and I have been up there this weekend, and the area, particularly for the middle, if I say so myself, is still super fast, super open, really visible. It's a lot of fun. So hopefully we've set some courses that are really fun, but also challenging. I think just building on what Wendy said, but kind of specific to the middle area, the terrain for the middle, I'd say, is using most of the really technical or the most technical parts of the map, probably the most concentrated areas of rock on the map. But the longer courses, the longer elite courses, will also go into a new area of sort of lower visibility forest that is new to everyone, which I'm super excited about, because it's, as Wendy says, a completely different type of orienteering, much more vague, much more reliant on compass and good direction, but also being able to maintain a good direction through what is relatively thicker forest. And thick is relative on this map. I think in some of those open areas and even some of the white areas in granite, I'm interested to see, what the winning times are, but I'm sort of banking on still running 5:15 probably minute Ks. It's still fast terrain. I guess Wendy sort of mentioned the tracks. Some of the tracks that are on the map have become really indistinct. And as Wendy said, there's lots of tracks in the terrain that are not maps. So I suppose my advice would be probably don't rely on tracks for navigation. Use the contour features and the rock detail. This map's undergone a massive remap in the last 2 years. So there's probably a lot more detail added, more obvious features have been made to look more obvious on the map. So I think the map's in a really good place that you should really need to rely on those tracks for navigation. Yeah, otherwise I think Wendy's summarized the sort of challenges really well. As you said, it's really about adapting your orienteering style depending on the different types of terrain out in the forest. Tash was just saying that Aston set some running wilds. I haven't jumped on to have a look yet, but maybe Aston can send the link around, or by Brody, or feel free to send it to me and I'll pass it around. Keen to have a look at those, and they're there for you to practice on the old maps as well, I guess.
Maybe just a couple of other things I might draw attention to in the bulletin. So there is a drinks control that's a spectator control. So get organised and have a look to see what it says in the bulletin about that. I suppose we had always planned for it being hot. The weather forecast is looking pretty good for us up here. I think at the moment it's sort of 25 maybe maximum, but you've also got early starts, and particularly on actually both the middle and the long day. So yeah, just get yourselves a little bit organised about being up early. So hopefully, yeah, it's looking like the weather's going to be great, but that was just a couple of things. But yeah, do read the bulletin. That's, it's the fairest way we can provide you with is the best information we can. So have a good look at that.
And I guess having been in the terrain this weekend, a bit of an update on the grass seeds. There's plenty of grass seeds out there. So I think my advice for clothing selection would be leave the long socks at home. It's like fast underfoot. There's nothing there to scratch you. Like I'd be saying running shorts or 3/4 tights or whatever, and as minimal sock as possible.
Go like the New Zealanders. Yeah. Oh, thanks, guys. I've got just a couple of, probably boring questions, but what the creek that's running through the middle, is there much water in the creeks at the moment? Are they going to be difficult to cross, or?
So I think the long courses are the ones that encounter the creek a fair bit, and my note in the bulletin basically says read the map carefully for the best place to cross. So there are plenty of water holes in it with the creek's been flowing. It's definitely, yeah, if you choose to cross where there's a blue looking water hole, you'll get wet, which is unusual for Queensland. Normally we get to a creek and just ignore it, but you will need to have a little look. But there are plenty of crossing points, but if it's showing more than a thin blue line, you'll need to look carefully about where you decide to cross.
Yep. All right, good. How about, this is just what I've written, there's lots of long grass, we know that. Is it sort of rocky ground under the long grass, like you find around Bendigo? Is it that sort of the rocks are hidden in the grass, so it makes it hard?
Not generally. Maybe in some of the areas where there's rock on the map, it is more rocky underfoot, but generally where it's wide in the forest, it's pretty clear underfoot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good.
Yeah, I don't think you'd call it ankle breaker terrain. I think what's got harder is that the long grass has made even your normal metre high boulder a little more difficult to see, so compass. But I think the remap has Jeff has used a lot of GPS positioning, so the boulders and the termite mounds are pretty damn right, so if you can't find it, this is probably the long grass.
Oh, that's good. Actually, I hope I've got late starts. I just see that Blair's put on, a little note saying it sounds like the weather's going to be great, so that's good. Caitlin's put a link to the to that running wild that Aston said, that Riley mentioned. So I think that's a good thing. You know, remind yourself how to get onto running wild and do that course, and then you can take into account what Wendy and Riley have said about the terrain, and just, you know, you'll have a bit better of a picture in your mind, I guess, when you're doing it. And Frederick's put on link to the NOL presentation dinner tickets. So what I've got from that is, you know, read the bulletin, and you know, look up. So, you know, I think Lizzie seems to have owned that, you know, look up Lizzie saying, which, you know, is important everywhere. But I think in this sort of terrain where you can actually see far ahead, it's really important. And Riley's got, you know, getting a good direction, being diligent with your good direction, and not relying on perhaps the tracks, and being careful of what's an animal track and what's a track, and using the contours. So all really good advice.
Yeah, hey Tash, I think the other thing with the looking up bit is, particularly for the, you know, you guys who've got, you know, 12, 15, 17 Ks, the looking up bit is also a lot about conserving your energy. You know, if you're just ploughing through long grass when 2 or 3 meters to the side there's less grass, you know, that's a really important thing. You know, you want to have your legs ready to run when you get to those fast sections. You don't want to burn yourself out just slogging through stuff when there's options.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, actually. Yeah. Find yourself slogging away in the long grass and you just look over and it's, you know, nice and open. Yeah,
with a cattle bean or kangaroos or whatever. So
yeah, and that's always, look, you know, just a reminder to be always looking left and right. You know, don't, as you get tired, you know, you get tunnel vision and you're just looking, you know, look around. Anything else, you guys?
No, that's about it, I reckon. But it's going to be great to see everybody there. Yeah, it's going to be a really good couple of days.
Yeah, I think so. I think so too. And just, you know, fingers crossed, touching wood, that, you know, all of us remain COVID free for another few days. You know, we just got to get there. So no, thank you very much, guys. I think maybe, I don't know, depending on Asta, if anyone wants to hang around, maybe for once we're all done, maybe the last 5 minutes, Asta might stick that middle distance course up, and anyone wants to hang around can have a look at it. But we might get Daniel on. I think Daniel's going to talk to us a little bit about the Gold Coast Sprint weekend. But yeah, thanks, Wendy and Riley. That was really good.
Nice. Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Riley. Making me more excited for it. So there you go.
Right.
All right. I will share the Gold Coast one. So in the Gold Coast, unlike in Kingaroy, there are, I'm going to say, very, very few hills. I think some of these maps will probably not even have contours on them because Gold Coast is a bit swampy and flat. That doesn't really matter for sprints. So my advice is, if you're avoiding hills in Kingaroy, don't worry about that at the Gold Coast. The maps we have, and what I'm going to talk about today, is Griffith Uni. So this is the world ranking race. This is, you know, the final. Everyone wants to do well on it, and that's what you can see on my screen at the moment. And then we also have a knockout sprint the day after. So Griffith Uni, I'm going to quote Blair here and said it's probably Australia's best sprint map. I hope he agrees with that because I'm pretty sure I heard him say it.
Yeah.
Is that a yes, Blair?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll take it. This is actually really tricky. And what makes it tricky is that quite a few buildings along with the fences don't connect. Of particular importance, if you guys can see my mouse, will be up here. That's a big loop for anyone who doesn't pay attention to this wall and this walled area over here. Like in all sprints, there'll be lots of controls. I'm not saying you have to check your numbers, but at least know where you are, because in this central area, it starts to feel the same. Particular to this weekend, we have marked.
Make sure we turn that Why is that the map?
Is that a question? University. Is that a question? Who's that? Shingler is joining. Oh, Mark's muted himself. All right, we're back. Common to this weekend is the mapper, Mark Roberts, which means once you get used to them, they'll all be the same. And he's put in very detailed map notes. They're on the website. You can have a look at them when you need to. Number one, most important, fences. So I'm going to share a picture, I think. This little fence over here, it's annoying for running because if you're a tall guy, you're going to hurdle it. Otherwise, it's going to slow you down. But it's probably not going to be mapped because there's not enough space. So bear that in mind as you're running. One, just be careful, please. Like, that's quite hard to see if you're looking at your map. And two, it might mean that crossing across open to avoid, to save yourself two sides of a triangle might not always be the best option if you have to do two little annoying fence crossings along the way. So I'd say that's number one important. Number two is the shade sails. So Mark's rule is if you can't really tell that you're in a canopy, for example, it's a really, really high shade sail, it's just mapped as a normal paved area. If you can tell you're in a canopy, as usual, it's the weird blue-gray color. I think that's pretty important. Next on my notes, we've done fences, we've done canopies. Griffith, we had a look at. Most important bits, avoiding the walls and making sure that your route really does connect. Apart from that, the rest of the maps are high schools. Depending on how you train sprints or what you think, I think that high schools are a bit more open and the route choice is a little bit easier. But each to his own. The other maps are all high schools. The last point I want to bring up for everyone is pacing. So this is, for some of us, one, it's a second weekend. We'll already have run Easter. And two, we're trying to run 2 events on the Saturday, a whole knockout sprint on the Sunday, and some people might have run the sprint relay on the Friday night and the spit event. Because it's sprints, you want to be going fast where you can. So I really advise everyone, think about what pacing do you need for a qualifier? What pacing do you need for the first round of your knockout sprint? Are you trying to make sure you've still got juice in your legs by the end, or are you just making sure you want to survive? I think this is kind of like a Melbourne Sprint weekend. This is going to be one of the important times where warm-ups and warm-downs are so precious because you're trying to turn around and back up for the next event. Any questions?
I'd just make following on from Daniel, and I was controller here for 2016, so it's where my knowledge of area comes from. I think one of the things which makes Griffith really distinctive is that a lot of uni campuses you can just run between the buildings, but here you can't. A lot of it is olive green and the paths are quite irregular, so you have to plan your routes between the buildings as well as your routes around them.
Yeah, I'm just, having a look. There's a lot of out of bounds, garden beds as well.
Yeah, and irregular shaped buildings.
Yeah. Dan, can I just ask, can you just go over the undercover area again that we were talking about? So are you saying that if it's really, really high, it's not marked as an undercover area?
Yes. So I'm not going to say anything that's you're going to come back and say Daniel said the undercover areas weren't marked. So this is from the website. You guys can see where it is, and this is the general map notes. So this applies to all maps for the Gold Coast weekend. I'll let you guys read what it says under canopies.
Yeah, no, that's sounds fair enough. Not to make the map more complicated. Just for people to be aware. That's thanks for pointing that out. And those fences, those little chains. Yep, just be aware. Look up.
Yes. So, I mean, as normal in sprints, if it's marked as uncrossable, that's not an invitation to try. That means it's the rule.
Yeah.
There will be people out there everywhere watching. So
Exactly. And if a gate is closed, please leave it closed. Don't definitely do not open a closed, gate. And also you touched on the pacing yourself. It's going to be a big 2 weekends, lots of racing. So everyone's got a few days off in between. Just use that time wisely and, rest, recover, do what you need to, fuel up well, so that you're all ready for that, for the second sprint weekend. So,
yeah, Tash, I would like to hear what you have to say. Do you think people should be going 110% for a qualifier, or, for example, the first round of their knockout?
It's a tricky question. If we were racing overseas, any of us, apart from maybe 1 or 2 of us, you would have to be going flat knacker. There's not many. It's Australians don't automatically make the finals. It's not many of us make the finals. So whenever we're in a qualification anywhere apart from here, you have to give it your best. But here, I guess you have to know your field. You have to know your abilities, who you're up against, and you have to be able to gauge how well your race has gone. And I guess that if you're having a really clean run, no mistakes, sort of where you roughly sit speed-wise, then, you could take it a little bit easier. So but you don't want to, miss out either. So it's a personal thing, and for everyone, it'll be a little bit different. So there are people that will have to try to get through, and there are some that can just cruise through. And I think you sort of need to know roughly where you sit in the field.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Does anyone else want to throw in an opinion there? That's Warren. You're not muted, Warren. I think also, apart from that, you need to be, it's in between the races that is also really important. So you need to refuel, within that time zone, rest, apart from doing your warm down, and then you warm up again, and not be standing out in the sun, walking around too much. Just take it easy, and to prepare for your next race.
While I have the floor, I'll also mention you should try and attend Brenton's talk, because there are some knockout sprint rules that have been tried overseas but not yet in Australia, that you'll want to be aware of going into that event. So there you go. That's my plug.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, so I have spoken to Brenton, and he really would like everyone who's entered to just pop over whenever we decide that we've got the most people around to do that, and that'll be after one of the days of Easter, and he's just going to run through the procedure. I think just because it's going to be a hectic day, and quite time pressed, I guess. So we just need to make sure that everyone knows what's going to be happening. So just to cut out the confusion and I guess angst on the day. Anything else, Daniel?
No, looking forward to seeing everyone all there.
Yeah, so are we. It's going to be really good fun. Looking forward to it a lot. So I don't think I have anything else on my list of things to remind you of. Just, buy your tickets for the presentation dinner. Pull out your old gaiters from your cupboard if you want, or go, no long socks, or just be ready. Read the bulletin about the water situation so that you're on top of that, whether you think you might need to supplement with more. Don't forget to bring some sort of head torch for the night relay, or at least amongst your team. Maybe you just need 2 and rotate them. I think that's about it. So does anyone have any questions?
Bruce have a question.
Bruce.
Thanks, Daniel. The sprints sound fun. Really looking forward to them. Just a question. I've been trying to read through the bulletin, but I haven't found the information. Maybe I missed it. Is in both the sprint and the knockout, are the 20s and 21s running the same competition, or are they running separate competitions for the purpose of qualification for the finals?
Good question. I see Brenton on the call. I'm 90% sure that everyone is thrown in together.
For the knockout, they are, Bruce. For the day before, I actually can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, so.
Hey, Tash, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, so they're all out, everyone's thrown in together. That's very obvious. And in the qualifier, there's, I think, 70.
So that's combined.
Yep, so there's 2.
Oh, you're cutting in and out. We've sort of lost you there. Well, I've lost you.
That's why I moved out. The internet's so bad.
Well, Daniel, you should be able to, if I don't get through, but Bruce, basically, yes, everyone's thrown in together. And so for the purposes of the A final, in the sprint final, it's the top 24, whether they're 21s or 20s.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Well, we've got some Easter organisers with us. I've got just, something I haven't read. I will read the bulletin, but, they're long walks to the start or anything a little unusual.
Quarantine for the qualifier.
No long walks to the starts for at least day 1 and day 2 of Easter, but car parking's pretty tight. So we've put in the bulletin, we'd really appreciate if people could try and carpool if possible, at least from Kingaroy or out on the road, because the track into the map is a lot better than it was, but still a bit sketchy in places, and the car parking's pretty tight. So we're keen to just minimize how many cars are coming into the map. So carpool if possible.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah, and bring your own water. So there's no water being provided at the assembly area. There's plenty of water on the courses, but bring your own from town. And Kingaroy water is terrible. So if you're fussy, go get your bottled water.
Okay, bring a big, okay.
Thing, go to Woolies.
Yeah. All right, and it's also Good Friday. I mean, that's obviously it's Good Friday, but smaller country towns, I'm not sure what's actually going to be open. So just be a little bit prepared. Yeah, that's what we've found out from the locals, that there'll be very little open. You might get one servo that's selling 2 kilograms of mandarins, and that's about it. So get organised. It's a bit of it's a busy little town when it's awake, but if it's it'll be dead over Easter. And apparently there's a speedway on at the showgrounds and stuff. So okay, well, I did ring to try and organise to eat out on Friday night, and I think the first 2 or 3 places I rang were not open Friday night. So that might mean just and also the supermarket, I think, was shut or shutting early. So don't get caught out. Just, buy something early or bring food with you for that first night. Just don't get caught out. Yeah. And actually also just another little thing, because it's happened to our family in the last few weeks, SI sticks are going flat. It must be everyone must have bought them, 3 or 4 years ago. And, 3 of ours have just gone flat in the last few weeks. So just be aware that they, if you're mid-race and it stops, beeping, just punch it sort of manually and continue on, but just keep an eye out for that. And the guy, I don't know about the Queensland O shops, but the New South Wales guy is actually doing like refurbished ones. You trade in your flat one and buy a new one at a cheaper price. So that's an option as well. But we need to let the organisers know if you're going to use a different number. All right, well, I think that's it, guys, unless anyone's got another question. And if we don't, I'm going to get Aston to perhaps share that map, and then everyone that wants to can, go off and eat dinner, go to bed, whatever, and Aston can share that running wild, and he might even just have a little talk through what he thinks, or anyone else can jump in and have a chat. So thank you for joining, everyone, and look forward to seeing you all next weekend. And thanks to Wendy, Riley and Dan too for jumping in there.
Thank you.
You right, Aston?
Yep, I'll just share the screen, I guess. It's on show. I am gonna assume that you can see this and just click on the thing. So I've only set one running wild for Insta, but I'll open it up. I'll set some more in the coming days and probably set some for Gold Coast as well. And they're usually all just public. Somebody's gone and drawn a funny route here. I usually just make them all public. So if you go to the running wild, that's not it. If you go to I've just gone back to the main page. All right, you know where to find them. So they're just at the top. They'll be, the person that made them will be a key 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever my thingo is. So just click on that and it'll be called East or Day 1 or whatever. So this one I set, I'm pretty sure is the middle. I set it for the men's 21 course. So it's got the right amount of controls and approximately the right distance, and the start and the finish were the best I could make it out from the bulletin. It could be wrong, but I tried to do the best I could from the bulletin, and then just quickly sort of set a course and what I thought maybe the challenges could be. It didn't include that new bit of low vis stuff that they mentioned. I'm thinking maybe that could be over here, or I'm not sure, potentially over here, or maybe there's something across this fence that isn't mapped yet. I'm not sure, maybe there's some bushes growing up somewhere, but maybe it's after the spectator loop, who knows. But like, as Riley and Wendy said, all the rocky bits looks really quite fun. I'm quite excited, and hopefully it's as fast as they say, because that'll make it really, really interesting running, really fast through detailed rock and stuff. Sounds really good. What did you want me to do, Mum?
I don't know. I just thought people might still, be keen just to actually look at the map. So I don't know if you and Riley, or you, Riley, Wendy, or anyone wants to just, I don't know, perhaps talk through, 2 to 3, and just what you're looking at as you do that leg, thinking about what Riley and Wendy have said. And Riley, you jump in if you think, the way that you would do it, having run here before, or without obviously, giving away anything we shouldn't know.
All right, I guess so. This is 2 to 3. I've just orientated it. I'll go first then. I have a disclaimer. I've never run in this forest. I think I've barely run in Queensland ever. So I was injured at Oz Champs in 2016. So maybe I've never run in Queensland. I don't know. So what I'm saying could be completely off base, but I'll give it a crack. What I see on this leg is, obviously it looks quite tricky because there's a lot of rock and the control is pretty much entirely through the rock, and it's quite vague. There's not many contour details, but looking at it, there's a few things along the way that might help. So I guess out of the control, immediately you've got this massive flat spot, at least till you get to the creek. So for me, that just immediately go compass out of the control, because you haven't really got any other choice. And ideally, I'd like to miss a little bit to the right here to make sure I'm not don't hit at this point here and then have to run up through the rocks. So down to the creek, and then along the creek to the bend. I might not actually run along in the creek until the bend, but that's what my mind is thinking. I might cut the corner a little bit, but to the bend. And then this is where I don't really know, not having run anything like this, whether I would cut up through the rocks or whether I would actually run all the way around to this nice yellow flat spot. But if it's as fast as they say it is, maybe I would cut the corner through here into the yellow, like a bit of 50-50 of what I've just said. So like sort of halfway between the two, and then into like the top half of this yellow in the gully as well, and then up the flat gully with the two blobs of big rocks on my right, and then in between the last blob and then the first blob on my left. And then from here, it gets a bit scary, but there is a few nice things on the way that can help us if we go from the two blobs of rock, a bit of a compass / sort of staying on the same height. We get one bit of gray, a little hill, little spur with some gray, and then obviously this massive bit of gray with the boulder, which is the main thing that I'd be looking for. These other things that I mentioned would just be little bonus things. Like if I didn't see them, I wouldn't be concerned. But if I did see them, I'd be like, yay, great. I'm on the, haven't gone accidentally 90 degrees to the right. So end up hopefully on this bit of gray. And then from here, again, not having run in this terrain, I don't really know the best strategy to go from here, but I would be going I'd be probably stop at this point even and get a really good compass and go straight at it, obviously trying to read things, but having that underlying compass, and then maybe being able to tell this last line of rocks apart from all the other ones. But again, I don't know, not having run this terrain, I don't know all the stuff. And then obviously there's this very vague spur that I know that, if I'm still on the east side or the right side of that spur, I know I haven't gone far enough. So, but from this bit of gray to the control, I don't know, compass and hope maybe. Try and find these rocks. Anyone else want to help me get from there to there, or at some other point in the leg?
I can probably jump in if you like. I'd say in terrain like this, you can see there's not a lot of like order to the rock. Like there's just lots of rocks scattered. So I think the most helpful thing I find is kind of grouping rock together where you can and ignoring the rest. Grouping those big features, like you mentioned, like that boulder on the bare rock, and using kind of the most obvious features in the rock and really trying to disregard as much of the rest of the rock as kind of just noise that you don't need. Because there's possibly more rock here than is mapped as well. Those areas of rocky ground can be reasonably large rocks still, that are just smaller than the surrounding rocks. So it's, for me, I think the biggest tip for this map is to kind of group or like clump together rocks where you can and use them as like single features in a way.
And Aston, probably my only thoughts would be it's a slightly longer leg, and is to make the choice whether to get out of the rock and run the fast to the left, or if you're confident through the rock, going straight is great, and they're the sort of decisions you'll need to make. What's the best option for you? And I noticed that Ethan made a comment about the big boulders behind as well, which is always a good thing, just looking and extending the control a little bit. Even with the longer legs, I guess they're the things where, even though it'll be subtle, there will be route choice options. So making that decision at what point and what suits your orienteering style best. If you're not such a fast runner, straight might be the thing. Good leg.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that. Yeah, I didn't even really consider. Usually when I just look at a leg, if I know it's not too hilly or there's nothing in my way, I just sort of look at the straight and narrow. But to the left here doesn't look too bad, to be honest. I think maybe I would still go straight, but if I ended up here when I hit the creek, maybe I would go left and not really be upset with myself. So it looks pretty good either. Yeah, obviously going straight, coming from here is a lot trickier entry than coming from this saddle. So yeah, tough decisions to make, I guess. I have to wait and see in the forest and see what the forest tells us. Is that right? Do we have time, or people can leave, I guess, if they want to?
Yeah, I think people can just drop out if they want. So talk through a couple more. I'm not sure.
What's that? 4, 5, 6, 7? No, 6. Nope. 8. Yeah, okay, this one. This one looks quite interesting, more contour shape than the last one, which was quite vague. This one looks like it actually has some sort of shapes that you can orienteer off, and obviously still lots and lots and lots of rocks. So I'll just talk it through again. Just remember, I haven't run here, so don't listen to what I have to say too much. But immediately out of the control, I can see this boulder is actually pointing at the control, so that's nice. They've gone and shaped it, so it means it's some sort of shape. So follow the shape of that plus a bit of compass, and that takes you to the creek with the bend, and then obviously the massive big yellow on the other side. So that, you know, gets you a fair chunk all of the way through the leg. And then I'm looking at sort of just the general vibe of it is I want to be a little bit left and maybe come up through here somewhere. There's obviously, maybe you can sort of swing back and go above these rocks. Doesn't look too bad as well, but it just sort of, my eye immediately goes to that sort of line. You guys can see my cursor, right? I am assuming.
Yep.
All right, cool. Yeah, so I'm sort of, my eyes are drawn to this sort of line. Just, I don't know why, just sort of the vibe of it, but obviously coming up this little baby gully and staying above these rocks actually looks quite good as well. But so when I get to the yellow, I want to be left of this line of rocks, and then I'm going compass over this flat spur, a bit of a saddle down to the creek, next creek. There's a bit of a bend, and, you know, I should know relatively decently where I am on this line of rock as I climb up it, because, you know, I knew exactly where I was just back here. Compass can't go too badly through there, and there's the bend in the creek and like a couple of little gullies and some rocks. So as I'm running up here, I should be able to figure it out. And then the kicker is this steep bit with rocks on it, and I'm hoping that would be quite obvious, and I want to be to the left of that. And then I'll drop into the next gully, and I just want to be to the right of the gray. Looks like there's a lot of black in here, so the gray hopefully stands out a little bit more than just like random boulders. But if I can't see that, then there's the two biggest boulders, hopefully to my right, just above another bit of gray. And then from here, it looks like if you sort of discard all of the rock and just look at the contours underneath, it looks like it's on the back of the spur, almost in the gully over the back of the spur. And it's also the last rock in all the clump. So I have that in the back of my mind as I come up in between the gray and the two big boulders. And then from there, it looks like a bit of compass and up across. And hopefully on the day, the course setters have cut the lines, not like I have here, so you can actually see this detail. The gray with the rock on it, that's a huge giveaway, you know, 30 meters before the control, and from there you should find it pretty easily, hopefully, or see it even. So, but yeah, that's it looks like quite a fun control, because I can imagine the first half of the leg you'll be running quite fast, and then the second half of the leg you might slow down a little bit. But if you pick the right line through the forest, or like come up through here, I still imagine you'll be able to run quite quick, even though it looks quite tricky. If anybody else has a different way of doing it, maybe speak now before I move to the next one.
Hey everyone, I'm a bit late. Can I ask, sorry, maybe Wendy, and I'm sure you've probably talked about this, does the vegetation change in the gullies or the spurs, or is white and green and yellow on this map, or how accurate is it in terms of the actual runnability?
Yeah, hey Brody. Look, pretty much the white is white and the green is low vis. The only problem is that the grass is longer in quite a few sections. So what you might find is that meter high boulders, if you're only 5'3" like me, are a little hard to see. So yeah, look like any good granite, use the big features to help you. If you're having to pick out little rocks along the way, you're probably slowing yourself down.
Is the long grass more common in certain areas on the map, or is it pretty like just random across the areas?
It's pretty random. I would say, like for the men's elite course, 70 to 80% is pretty runnable. There's been cattle on the property that have only been moved recently, but it's kind of, we were saying before, there's kind of patches of it. So look up and look for the bits where there's, a little less grass, and you should be able to move pretty easily.
Yeah, cool. But it doesn't so much, apart from the small boulders, it doesn't sort of doesn't affect the ability to read the areas too much.
No, I don't think so. The very subtle gullies might be a bit, but if anything, they're probably a little more obvious as a gully because they're greener. They've actually they're boggy.
Yeah.
Well,
that's a relief.
yeah. Look, I think you'll find it's okay.
Sorry, I probably asked a question. Sorry, being asked.
Oh, that's all right.
Thanks for that.
It's okay.
All right, I guess I'll move on to another control. Is any of these controls people want to look at? We've looked at a couple of quite rocky ones. Maybe we could look at a flatter, Vega one. I don't know what control is this. Let's see if I can guess.
The middle distance course, Aston.
Yeah, this is the middle distance course. I tried to get the start and the finish and the spectator and as good a guess as I could from the bulletin, and the course length and the control numbers is about right.
They've done all the work for us. Good man.
Yeah, I just did the best I could from the bulletin. I could be quite wrong if I misinterpreted, but let's try and look at this longer, flatter one. I'll try and guess the number. 21? Damn. 20. Pretty close. All right, so I guess, as Wendy said, it varies a lot, the styles of orienteering you've got. We've looked at a couple sort of mid-length, longer, rocky ones, and now we have, for a middle distance, a relatively long leg, but this looks rapid and fast and kind of flat and vague. So immediately, naturally, you'll hopefully tend towards looking at your compass a bit more, but there's also lots of things along the way that should hopefully point you in the right direction. Just the massive big picture is you've got your hill on your left and you've got your creek on the right, and you're halfway in between that for most of the leg. But out of the control is compass. Make sure you don't run over this hill. Make sure you're to the left of it, good sort of start angle to make sure because it's hard to walk out of the control, run out of the control and immediately get a compass bearing. So it's nice to have that sort of angle or feature to guide you out for the first bit before you sort your compass out. At least that's what I like to do to keep the speed up in and out of the controls. If that's what you want to do, there's also the tactic to, take 5 steps walking out of the control to get the compass immediately, which is also very good in tricky stuff. And yeah, anyway, so compass up, left of the hill, over the spur, and hopefully see this hill with the rocks on it, but just staying to the right of it, nothing too bad there. And then from there, it's just compass. I imagine the bits of yellow, like any Australian map, are quite wandering, so you might not be able to tell these apart super well, but you should be able to get the vibe that you're maybe in and about the yellow without knowing this yellow maybe just wanders out a bit like it sort of does. So you can sort of see how it's mapped on the right. You can imagine it might be hard to tell the boundary of the yellow. But anyway, so compass, and then there's this line of rocks on your right, and you just want to make sure they're on your right the whole way as you climb up the hill, and then you get to the top of the hill, and then you have a choice to make. Do I run over the hill to the right of the hill? Probably not to the left of the hill. But I wouldn't make that decision back here. I would make that decision, as soon as I can see the hill. And then, as Wendy said, look up, to the right looks like there's no grass. That's great. I'll go to the right. Or maybe to the right has got lots of fallen trees or something. So I'll go straight over and make those sort of decisions in the moment, and, based on the information that the forest is giving you. Let's just say we go straight and we go over the hill in between the 2 rocks. And then from here, if it looks kind of vague, but I guess you've got this nice contour shape to help sort of guide you in. So if you've gotten to here and you get a good compass off the top of this hill, you should probably be able to hit this hill with some rocks. And then from there, it's about finding which rock. But I guess at the end of the day, it's pretty much the last rock. But, you might want to do more navigating than that, saying see this sort of band of rock, or maybe you'll miss a little bit on your compass and see this massive rock on your left or whatever and help guide you in. There's also the yellow behind, and it's in a gully. There's a few things helping you there, but I think the main part of this leg is probably from this hill back here to that next hill, there were a few things I mentioned, like the rocks and the yellow blobs, but making sure you have a solid compass from here all the way till you can see the top of this hill, because everybody's done it. It's very easy to start off this way, and then sort of you forget to look at your compass and you see another runner, or you see something that looks like the hill. Maybe you saw this hill and all of a sudden, for some reason, you're running 45 degrees the wrong way, and you get to here and then you're like, oh, wait a minute, that's not right. And then you take a minute to figure it out, and by then you've lost a minute. And on a control like this, I can imagine you're running pretty fast through here, so losing a minute would hurt. It would hurt the soul to lose a minute on this sort of control where you can run so fast. But yeah, I don't know too much about what the terrain is like, but I can imagine that is quite a fast open one. As long as you got your head pointed in the right direction, you'll be able to figure it out. Any other ones that people want to talk about, or somebody else wants to talk about one? A different point of view, maybe.
Yeah, hey Aston, I thought your comment about towards the end of that leg, was what we were trying to say before about the minimizing, your time loss. So you, like you said, you could be running that leg really fast and just being a little loose and careless at the end, and you're jumping from, say, from one boulder to the next, and sure, you're only losing maybe 20, 30 seconds, but that's the bit about being the really careful part of, and using your techniques really well right to the end, not just being lazy going, oh yeah, I'll run down there and I'll see it, and because you just may not. I think the kinds of legs you've set are really good in terms of the sort of feel of what the course setting will be like, possibly on both days, bits of that sort of thing. So it's a nice variety that you've got there for people to simulate their thinking and preparation.
Thanks. Yeah, I guess like what Wendy said, all those, if you come to these boulders first and then stand still for 5 seconds, then run to those boulders. But if you do that every second control, that adds up to a couple of minutes, even though you might think, oh, I had a great run, why am I 2 minutes behind? It could just be those little baby mistakes that you don't even really think about, but they all add up. So yeah, you can be direct and fast all the way into the center of the control circle, not just to the edge of the control circle. That saves you a lot of time, and you might be able to catch up potentially faster people that are doing those little bumbles around in the control circle.
Yeah. Good. Aston, can you go back 2 controls?
2 controls.
So oh no, not 2. No, actually it wasn't that one. It was the one going diagonal across that. I thought that one. Yeah. I don't know what leg that is. Sorry. I just thought that might have been
that one.
Yeah, it's just a little bit different because it's there's a lot of rock in there.
Yeah, and you can look at it. Apart from this first gully and spur, there's in the meat part of the leg, there's absolutely no contour shape. So immediately for me, that screams a bit scary because I like to use the contours, especially in a rocky area.
Yeah.
Because it sort of helps sort of shape the rock, and it just gives it away when there's lots of rocks and there's contours underneath. You just ignore the rock and look at the contours. But this area looks quite scary. At least you got quite an easy start. You're coming down across the grey, across the gully, up and over the spur. You should have a pretty decent idea of where you are at the spur or at the track, because the track's got bends and it's got this. I imagine this will be quite obvious. It looks like a couple of big boulders, bits of grey, bit of green. You might be able to see that down to your left or sign, but assuming you get to this track just here,
may or may not be all that reliable.
Yeah,
you're right saying just keep that in mind.
Yeah,
but that's the same with tracks a lot of the time. Sometimes they're not that reliable, but yeah.
No, yeah, that's true. But assuming we found this track, maybe some of the men's 10 or women's 10 had their course run up and around here and they've marked it down for us so we could see it. We get to here, and from here, this is where the leg really starts. This first part is just getting through, making sure you haven't lost where you are and you're not losing time, but just getting to here before you set up the main part. And immediately, I personally would love to know exactly where I was when I crossed the track, or at least see the thing I was running to as I was crossing it. Because, you know, if I crossed it and I got halfway down here without knowing exactly where I was to start, it just sort of sounds scary to me. So seeing these boulders or the termite mound or whatever that brown cross is, like as I was crossing it, would be really helpful to me, because that would help set up the rest of the leg. And then from there onwards, really strong compass, maybe even slow down and like do the double hands on the map, look up everything. I probably wouldn't stop, but I would definitely like put emphasis into it. And then head up looking, trying to see anything that comes up. I'll just be running on the compass and looking up. I hopefully see these rocks, and then the controller's on, probably on that little gully, but the thing just before it, the gray with the boulder, looks like it stands out, and there's, you know, a couple of big boulders to the right. So if I have my head up in the right direction, once I've passed these rocks here, I should be able to see the stuff coming up and then make sense of it in time to get in there quickly and punch the control and go to the next one. So yeah, the boulder on the gray and the two boulders to the right would be what I was looking for, but I would just have my head up in the right direction. So yeah, compass and head up, that control from this after you've crossed the track, pretty much, I think. And then double checking, because, you know, you could see something that looks like your control. For example, that thing looks quite similar to that thing, but just double checking, you know, if you see it in advance, there's no point to put your map away and run to that thing if you're not 100% sure that it is that thing. So if you've seen it way off in the distance, you've got that extra time to double check it. So you may as well. And then once you've double checked it, you can fang it there if you wish. Any other ones, or anybody else got? There's also the option, obviously, to run around this track, but I would go straight on that one.
Yeah. All right. I think that's probably enough. Aston, thank you. That was a really good little look. So this is on Running Wild, like Aston said, and there may well be a few more as the week, you know, as we get closer to Easter. So if you want to just have a bit of a practice yourself, put what you've heard into practice, you know, you can do that. That's pretty straight. Whoever Greeny.
When you're just clicking, you can just go, oh yeah, I'll run through here.
Yeah. So, all right. So again, thank you very much, everyone. It's really good and great to have you guys that, you know, in the organising party jump on. I'm sure you're tired, exhausted, you know, and just want to, you know, get to next weekend already. So we'll see you all up there. Thank you. All right. I don't think there's anything more in the chat we needed to. Nope. All good. All right. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.